Hi, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk to you today about praying while exhausted. I have a few stories I want to talk about, situations that involve me, at my workplace of work, and I just wanted to talk about situations that where I felt the need to pray while working, and God answered my prayers. Um, Let me talk about the very first situation that happened a few months ago. This was back in the summer of 2025. I was in an area of work where I was no longer comfortable in that area. There were a lot of personalities that were clashing, and definitely clashing with mine, and we were not getting things done to the best of our abilities. And there were certain people that were talking behind people's backs, and the kind of a toxic atmosphere at work. And I remember one day I was working on a particular product, and I had to get down on my knee in order to get low enough to complete the project. And I was getting the product where it needs to be. And when I was finished, as I was getting back up to my feet, and I braced myself on the counter, and I was raising myself up, and I just let out the exhausted prayer, and I said, God, please help me. And I stood all the way up, and I continued working, and it was a pretty rough day. Still continuation of the clashing of personalities, and the toxic atmosphere that I was working in at that time. And worked till the end of the day. Got home. When I got home, there was no one there. I was by myself, so I just went upstairs and decided I will take a shower and clean up, and try to renew my spirit. And I got out the shower, was drying off, getting my clothes back on, and my phone started ringing. And it was one of my neighbors. And I thought to myself, I wonder what's going on in my community, um, for my neighbor to be giving me a call. And so I answered the phone, and my neighbor said, my brother, you have been on my mind all day. What is going on?" And I said, "Well, I had a really rough day at work today, and I feel like I just need to calm myself down and relax, and hopefully get some peace before I go back to work tomorrow." And my neighbor said, "Well, you've been on my mind ever since this morning, and I feel like I need to pray for you." And so my neighbor prayed and prayed, and there was a particular person at my place of work that was really talking behind my back and everybody else's back. And my neighbor in the prayer started describing that person to God in the prayer for me. And I was so blown away. I told my neighbor, I said, the person you are describing to God is the person that is given all the problems at my place of work. And so when I was at work and I was so exhausted, and I raised myself up, and in communication with God, I said, God, please just help me. He sent that message of my request to my neighbor, and had my neighbor praying for me all day, and gave me a call by the time I got home and prayed for me over the phone. And that is the way God works. They say in the word that, it says in the word that, that God works in mysterious ways, but at this point for me, it's not even mysterious. I enjoy communicating with God, and He just answers my prayer. And I'll talk about another situation that happened a little bit later on. I was in a different area of work now in my workplace, and I work in a retail store, and so we're coming up to Christmas time, and that's the busiest time of the year for retail, and we had a lot of merchandise, and so every store in retail, they try to get ready for what they consider to be Black Friday, and so trying to get ready for it, and we had a lot of popular items that came in for um, for Black Friday, and there were some griddles that came in, and I was looking at the griddles, and I knew I had to get them prepared and to the place where they needed to be to 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 set up for Black Friday, in a week or two, and so I was working on some other products, and there were some lawnmowers, and I lifted the lawnmowers, and I said, these are kind of heavy. I lifted them above my shoulder to get them where they needed to be, and there was about three of them. And I lifted the first one, then I lifted the second one, and I lifted the third one, and then I felt kind of, oh, man, this is rough. I'm sort of exhausted, and so I went around and I looked and I saw the grills, and the way the grills was set up, I was gonna have to move. There was one grill on the floor, three on the pallet, but there was a pallet stacked wrong, so I was gonna have to move one off, straighten everything out, and then stack that one back up on, plus the one on the floor. And I thought to myself, oh man, that's a lot of work. I just got done lifting these lawnmowers, and I don't feel like messing with the grills. And I said, Lord, give me the strength to lift these grills. And I turned around, and I was walking to another area, going out the door, and I said, I'd take care of this one little thing, and I'll come back and I'll lift these grills. Um, you know, and as soon as I said, Lord, give me the strength to lift these grills, and I turned around, I started walking. A young man came around the corner that worked from another area, and he said, "Hey, good morning." I said, "Morning." I said, "Could you do me a favor?" And he said, "Yeah, of course." "Could you help me lift these grills?" He said, "Yeah, of course, I'll help you." And so he said, I think we're going to need to move this grill out the way first, and then we can get the grill stacked up right." And I said, "Yeah, that's what I was thinking." And he went over to the grills, slung it off by himself, straightened everything out, and then he said, "Okay, now I'll help you lift the grills." And we lifted two grills up and put them on top of the other two, wrapped them, and took them off the floor to where it was going to be staged for Black Friday. And God had him walking towards me the minute I said, "God, give me the strength. Give me the strength to lift these grills." And God answered my prayer on the spot, just like that. One more story I would like to talk about was in the same season. We're getting ready for Christmas, and the stores, they send countless amounts of merchandise. And so one morning I got there, and I was by myself, and I said, "Man, there's a lot of merchandise to go to the shelves, and I'm by myself." And I looked at it, and I evaluated everything I had to do, and I decided, "Ooh, this is a lot of work. This is gonna be tough." And so as I'm looking at the merchandise, and I started working, I'm working and I'm working, and I looked at and I straightened everything out to see so I could count what I have to do, because there are pallets and pallets of merchandise. And I said, "Lord, help me get through today." And about a minute later, there was a young lady that works in the front of the store, and she walked up to me and she said, "Are you Enoch?" And I said, "Yes, I am. What can I do for you?" And she said, well, I'm up front and it's kind of slow right now. And they said that I could come back and help you out. And I said, yes, you can. I have a lot of merchandise that I need to put up. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord, thank you again. While I'm exhausted and I pray under my breath, exhaustion, you answer my prayer. And so I told the young lady, okay, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. And she was very um, willing and able to help me get this merchandise taken care of. And we worked that day and got it done, and everyone was happy. And God showed himself to me again by answering my prayer the minute I asked him for help. And so I say all that to say that we're in situations. I'm just giving you work experiences, but in life, we get in situations where we're waiting for a move from God, or we may just be even just you may have work experiences just like I do. You know, work stresses all of us out at some time in our lives, and you may have some situations at home. You may have situations just in your daily life, just whatever you need to do in life might give you a situation where that exhausts you. And so, well, when you are exhausted, don't forget to pray. Don't forget to pray. Pray while you're exhausted, and God as will answer you. He has answered my prayers in many situations. Those are just three examples I've given you today where God have answered my prayers when I'm exhaustedly praying. You know, and I'm praying, and God hears you and he understands you, and he hears the exhaustion in your voice. And I remember several years ago, I was in a place where I was seeking employment, and I was not getting the results that I wanted. And I remember I was, God help me. And the next day, someone that I had talked to about a position gave me a call. Now, I heard a story many years ago that sometimes when you're moaning and you're groaning in prayer to God, God hears and understands you. But angels take those moans and those groans and they take them up to heaven, and they interpret those moans and groans to God, and God will hear and understand and answer your prayers. And so don't be afraid to moan and groan when you're in a situation that is very tough for you. God hears you. God sees you, and God will answer your prayer. So pray while exhausted. Thank you. I hope this is encouragement for you. I hope that if you ever get in a situation that you don't know your way out, and you're you're stressed and you're confused and exhausted, I hope that my stories will help you to realize that God is still there waiting to answer your prayers, and you can pray in any situation, and God will answer your prayer. Thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate you. I hope I'm encouraging you. Those that are my subscribers, I hope that my messages encourage you to do better. It encourages me to do better. And so I hope that you will continue to follow me, and share this video with a friend so they can be encouraged and they can be inspired to pray while exhausted. Thank you. Have a good day, and look forward to doing many more videos for you. Thanks.